Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, my name is Olivier Kraft. I'm a member of the International Development Section of the Royal Statistical Society. And it's my pleasure to welcome you all to today's webinar on measuring illicit financial flows. Now, before I introduce our speakers, I'd like to start with some housekeeping. So the RSS is recording this event, and the recording will be uploaded to the RSS YouTube collection. So if you wish to comment but are uncomfortable about being recorded, please let us know by email, and your contribution can be edited out of the recording. In terms of how we will proceed today, so the plan is to first hear from all our speakers, and then move into the Q&A and the discussion at the end. That being said, if during any of the presentations a question comes to mind, please feel free to use the chat function, and then we will get back to your questions at the end. So today's session will be chaired by Dr. Angela May, who is the Chief of the Research and Trend Analysis branch of the UN Office on Drugs and Crime. Angela will give a brief introduction to the topic, after which we will hear about 3 different case studies related to measuring illicit financial flows, 3 case studies from 3 different countries. So our first case study will be presented by Mr. Oscar Jaimes, who is the Director General at the Directorate for Government, Security and Justice Statistics at Mexico's National Institute of Statistics and Geography. After that, we will hear from Mr. Katuna Sinyangwe, who is the Director of Inspections at Zambia's Financial Intelligence Center. And last but not least, we will hear a presentation from Mr. Claudio Pauselli, who is a Senior Data Analyst at Italy's Financial Intelligence Unit. So without further ado, I now give the floor to you, Angela, to get the conversation started. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver, and thank you to the Royal Statistical Society to host such an interesting seminar. And a seminar on a topic that probably statistics has overlooked for all of these years, both in terms of official statistics, but also academic statistical communities. If we think that in general, the illicit economy is part of the system of national accounts by definition, very few countries measure it. And very few countries really also assess the size compared to the rest of the GDP or trend. So it's something that definitely has gone into, in a way, unnoticed often in national statistical systems. But also in the academic community, both from the statistical community but also from the more economics academic community. Illicit financial flows is often been seen, or if you want to take the broader issue of illegal economy, something difficult to measure, difficult to understand, and definitely something that requires transnational information system. And so something that we have started to develop as we want to discuss today, but really something that, again, in that sense, is still underdeveloped. But this is in contrast to the high political relevance of this topic. And we hear particularly, today's when even when we look at how parallel illegal economy may develop very quickly when things change suddenly. We saw, for example, with COVID, how even in high-income countries, the issue of illegal markets relating to medical equipment when COVID suddenly comes, and the gap between supply and demand quickly develop an illicit economy, and that came to the attention of many at that point. Today we talk about regulation of oil, for example, trade, and so this issue relating to understanding the size, the dynamics, the flows of illegal economy is really very relevant, high in the political agenda. agenda. But again, as statisticians, we haven't probably developed adequate tools to answer many of these political questions. One issue is also relating to the terminology. Illicit financial flows, even in this seminar, I bet that if each of us will say what we think is illicit financial flow, we will come up with probably different angles and different ideas. And also politically, sometimes these terms has been used to fit different areas of expertise. And often in the development world, illicit financial flows has been associated more to tax evasion, tax elusion, so more in relation to funds that move from developing countries toward the more higher income countries. While the context that we want to analyze today, also illicit financial flows, is more on the context of the illicit transaction, illicit, the crime around the illicit financial flows. And what we have done in UNODC together with our partner agency UNCTAD, we are trying to contribute a bit to the development of this statistical area. And first of all, we are giving a definition, a statistical definition. Again, politically, there is not enough consensus to provide an internationally agreed definition. But from a statistical side, we have define illicit financial flows basically as financial flows that moves across borders that are either illicitly in nature or they are transferred illicitly. And so in a way to specify that illicit financial flow is not just relating to the illegal economy or in the communities more of, if you want, law enforcement of illegal markets community is often thought as a synonym of illegal economy, of the size of illicit market. And within this framework, we have also, within this terminology, we have also developed a kind of a framework to say, how can we look at differently? And so to acknowledge that different methodologies are needed in order to measure different parts of illicit financial flows. So with a big pillar that, again, relates to this more tax elusion, evasion, so more macroeconomic dimension of illicit financial flows. With other pillars more relating to the illicit market. So how much financial flows cross borders in relation to illicit markets, illicit drugs or wildlife crime or, all of those type of illicit markets. Another pillar is illicit financial flows relating to corruption. And another pillar is illicit financial flows relating to thefts. So recognizing that each of these pillars require different methodology to really measure it. So that's the contribution that we have done for UNODC, but today we really want to hear also some the application of this framework. We will hear from Mexico, but also examples of the way how to measure illicit financial flows. We will hear from the example from Zambia and from Italy. So I will stop here. And I really want to start with the panel with Oscar Jaimes from the National Statistical Office of Mexico. He's a great partner and a friend. And then we will hear about how Mexico is championing the measurement of illicit financial flows. Oscar, over to you.
Thank you very much, Angela, for the introduction. And it's a pleasure to be here with you and Oliver. Oliver, many thanks for the invitation. My presentation, well, I will try to share the screen. Just a moment, please. Well, my presentation will be about a pilot that was done to measure illicit financial flows in Latin America. And of course, I will focus on the case of Mexico. This pilot was developed by UNODC and the Center of Excellence that UNODC and INEGI has for this kind of topics, hard to measure phenomenons. So the objective of this pilot was to adapt the conceptual framework that Angela already mentioned, this conceptual framework that was developed by UNODC and UNCTAD in order to test the methodology to measure illicit financial flows. As it was mentioned by Angela, it has different type of illegal markets. So what it was included in the pilot was drugs, trafficking in persons, smuggling of migrants, and illegal mining. The definition for illicit financial flows that was used were values illicitly generated, transferred, or used that moved from one country to another. And therefore, on this schematic, what Angela already mentioned, illicit can be around illicit commercial and tax, illegal markets, corruption, and exploitation activities and financing of crime and terrorism. There are two stages in which these illicit financial flows can be generated. Those linked to income generation as the set of cross-border transactions that are performed in the context of production of illicit goods and services, or the set of cross-border operations that directly generate illicit income for an actor, or those linked to income management as the set of cross-border finalized transactions to use the illicit income for investment in legal or illicit financial and non-financial assets or for consuming goods and services. So now I will turn to the case that was used to measure illicit financial flows in Mexico, and specifically I will go to those related to smuggling of migrants. So in this schematic is the flow that is the logic of the flow that was followed. On the left, the inward illicit financial flows. So there we have to think about a number of foreign irregular migrants that are crossing Mexico from the southern border to the Mexico-US northern border. And there are a number of foreign irregular migrants using migrant smuggling services and paying smuggling fees to Mexican resident smugglers. And there are also a number of foreign irregular migrants using migrant smuggling services that are crossing the Mexico-US northern border into the United States and also paying smuggling fees to Mexican resident smugglers. So with that, what we have are the export of migrant smuggling services or inward illicit financial flows. On the right, there are the outward illicit financial flows that has their origin in the number of Mexican irregular migrants, Mexicans, paying smuggling to smugglers, not resident in Mexico, smuggling services. So this means import of migrant smuggling services or outward illicit financial flows. Now, the results of the pilot. So the total on the left are the total of inward illicit financial flows by country. So from Guatemala, Salvador, and Honduras. And the total average of inward illicit financial flows associated with migrants smuggling in Mexico. So the average for 2016-2018 was 1,116 millions of US dollars. That's for the total inward of illicit financial flows. On the right is the average value of outward illicit financial flows associated with the smuggling of migrants in Mexico for each year. 2016, the total outward of illicit financial flows in millions of US dollars were 17.5 5, in 2017, 10 million, in 2018, 14 million US dollars. So, well, now on this slide, what I have is the summary. And for each year, you can see the estimates related to smuggling of migrants, the inward on the left, the outward again on the right. So for each year, and the average already mentioned, 1,116 million of US dollars. That's the average for the years 2016, 2017, 2018. You can see there on the screen the estimate for each year. And on the outward, the average was 14 million US dollars. Now, since that was from 2016, 2018, what I want to show you here, some data coming from US Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, and specifically for 2019, 2020, but I want to highlight that in 2020, there was a decrease in administrative arrest and also on removals due to the pandemic. By country of citizenship, Mexico accounts for more than half of irregular migrants. In 2020, more than 50%. And then from Guatemala, countries from Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, and other countries. So even though we haven't been able to update this with the pilot, I mean to continue the pilot, specifically for Mexico, it's important to take into account that this decrease in 2020, it has been changing the situation since then. Numbers are increasing, of course. The flow of migrants is growing again. So it's important to continue these type of exercises. And there are a few challenges. First, for INEGI, since this pilot was done by UNODC, as I mentioned before, for INEGI, in order to try to continue this type of measurements, we have to adapt the methodology to the national context, as well as the specific illicit market. There are also some challenges around the SDG indicator. So this is the total value of inward and outward illicit financial flows. We have to consider the diversity of the relevant institutions at the national level and the institutional engagement. Also, for data collection, there are some challenges that are important. First, the scarcity of data, confidentiality issues, and a difficulty that we have with the sources that are non-continuous and non-current. Here on this slide, what I want to highlight is it's about the sources. So specifically for the smuggling of migrants in Mexico, the data that was used for the pilot, we have return of Mexican nationals from the United States. That is one source is from Mexico, from the Ministry of the Interior, and the other one is from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the U.S. Border Patrol. And for the percentage of irregular migrants who hire a coyote or a smuggler to illegally enter the U.S. and to cross Mexico, and the prices paid by irregular migrants to cross Mexico and to enter the U.S. illegally, all those four were used from a survey. That data came from the NIFS, that is the Southern and Northern Border Migration Service, one in the south, another one in the north, and this is administered by the Northern Border College, and the data was available from 1993 to 2020. However, this was not updated since the pandemic. So there are some issues about if these MIFs are going to continue in the near future. Some benefits about regarding the collection of data. It's important, of course, as Angela and Oliver mentioned, to know more about this phenomenon and about the illicit economy as well, to increase capacity, analytical capacities to understand how illicit markets work, and also to raise awareness on the importance of public policies to address this problem, and also to start a dialogue between countries such as the one that we are having right now. So that's all for my part. Thank you very much for your attention. Back to you, Angela. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Oscar. That's very interesting. And particularly, as I said, it's interesting to see how a National Statistical Office implemented this pilot, and how this, you show how indeed this can be integrated in a national statistical system, with the proper sources. So that's an encouraging experiment. Thank you, Oscar. We go to the next presentation from Claudio Pauselli, Senior Data Analyst in the Financial Intelligence Unit of Italy, again to talk to us about another way of looking at these flows. Claudio.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'm going to share my slide. Just a moment. Can you view my slides? Okay, yeah. Perfect. I start. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Claudio Pauselli. I'm working for the Italian Financial Intelligence Unit, UAF. In the next slide, I'm going to show you the work to build up a new method to detect anomalous wire transfer flows. First of all, let's introduce with the research questions. In 2020, we have recorded about 50 million of transactions related to wire transfers from to abroad to Italian banks. It's a huge number of transactions, and it is necessary to build a filter to select the most anomalous transactions in order to depth analysis for anti-money laundering purpose. In which way we can build this filter? We build a model that should explain with the economic factors the observation, and the observation that's departure from these models, we can tag them like anomalous. In practice, we use a general economic model, very popular, to explain the flow from a geographic location to another, that mimics the Newton's laws of gravity. So the flow is proportional to the economic size of the hands of the flow and inverse to the squared of the distance between them. It's quite spontaneous to linearize this relationship with the logs. We don't estimate a normal linear regression, but we use the device of quantile regression. The reason why is explained in the next slide. Why quantile regression? It allows us to establish a reasonable threshold, as we can see, an high quantile of the distribution, above which we can tag an observation as anomalous. The estimation is robust to the presence of potential outlier, also because in final is what we are looking for. Moreover, linear regression return not only the expectation of the target value. Instead, quiet regression gives us an idea of the quantile of the distribution that can give us some clues about the phenomenon. In which way we define the anomalous flows? As I have said before, we estimate a conditioned high quantile in the exercise the 99th, and we compute the confidence interval at the level of 99%. The upper bound of this interval is the threshold above which we can tag the flow as anomalous. A few words about SARA reports that are the bulk of the data that we use in this exercise. They're regarding all transactions equal or to above 15,000 users. They are sent by financial intermediaries, Bank 2. They are anonymous data. They are given with monthly frequency, and they are at the level of detail of a municipality branch of the bank. The target variable is the total amount of wire transferred in a corridor. What is a corridor? The corridor is individuated by three elements. The first is the country of origin of destination of the flow. The second and the third are the bank and the municipality of destination origin of the flow. As you can see, it's a huge number of corridors, about 750,000 for incoming flows, and about 600,000 for the outgoing flows. A few words about the other variables of the model that are divided in three blocks. Core variables that are linked with the gravitational models, and dimensionality and the control factors that are linked to the dimensionality or to take into account the qualitative characteristic of the flow. The first block contains taxable income, that is the proxy of the size of the economic size of one of the ends of the flow, the municipality. On the other hand, we cite the proxy of the size of the foreign country is the GDP. The distance is measured by the distance between foreign country capital and province of the capital of the municipality. To take into account also dimensionality, we add in the second block the short-term trend, that is the flow the last year. We also put an indicator of attractiveness of the corridor within the province, that is the ratio of short-term trend and the total province flows, coming depending on the direction. We also add the number of wire transferred from to abroad in current year. We also consider the number of employees in large enterprise for 1,000 inhabitants at the municipality level, to take into account the industrial complexity of the municipality. On the qualitative side of the characteristic of the flow, we also set a set of dummy, a dummy for border province, that is a flag that is activated when a province shares the border with the origin destination country of the flow, a serial of dummies for economic sector of the customer, a dummies for the type of the bank, and then a dummy for the belonging of the country of the origin destination to Eurozone or European Union, not Eurozone. Here we have the parameter estimators for the tool models, inflows and outflows. As you can see, the parameters are strongly significant. The signs are according to the expectations, and the general fitting is quite good considering the cross-national nature of data. For both of duration, we have tagged about 0.7% or 0.7% of the total flows, that corresponding to the 11% of the total amount of the flows. Here we have a simple breakdown of the flows by the origin or destination. Let's start by the origin with world zone. As we can see, the zone that above the general average of 11% are European and Eurozone with 13%, Middle East and North Africa with 16%. Then we have Caribbean and Latin American, Sub-Saharan Africa, Pacific and Asia, with the value that range from 12% to 25%. For the outflows, we have Eurozone and Middle East, North Africa with 13 and 8% above the average. The Caribbean and Latin America with 26%, and Pacific and East Asia with 12%. We have conclusion. We have shown that it is possible to have a high level of detail of and with robust estimations of anomalies at the level of wire transfer flow incoming and outcoming our country. It is possible on the basis of these results to build up whatever type of aggregate indicator at the level, for example, country, province, or bank, that could be used in operational application. That's all. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Claudio. That was very interesting. I don't know if before we go back to Katuna, do you have any maybe question or comment? Anyone online? If you want to intervene, just please maybe raise your hand on the team function or write it in the chat. I have a question, Claudio, for you, basically. If do I understand correctly, when you talk about basically the methodology had basically everything that was stand out as different than the gravity model. If I correctly understand what you said, because in the past I have seen estimates of illicit financial flows based on the gravity model. So now that I context what you are doing, but I think it's interesting. Do I understand correctly? But actually, you're saying.
I explain. I don't didn't want to say that is the first time the gravity model is used. I want to mean that the level of detail, at this level of detail, is the first time, at least for UIF.
No, I don't think
because
you said...
we had the other tries with gravity model, but not so at this level of detail. I have understood your question.
No, I think what I ask is that basically you consider an anomalous transaction something that does not fit the gravity model. Is it correct?
No. Why you say that?
No, I'm asking. So that's not.
No. In the flows, because I am modelizing flow, as I have stated in the second slide, the gravity model is a quite spontaneous choice to describe this type of flow. The anonymous, I don't think that there is a main topic to not advise this type of modelizing for this type of phenomenon.
Understand. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't know, Oliver.
Yeah. So I was just wondering if also on the UIF model, whether you had been able to kind of confirm any of the findings by kind of looking then at the actual data, because if we say that, I think one of the results was 23% of outflows for a particular region are anomalous. Are you able to determine how many of these anomalous flows are actually illegal?
No, first, I want to do a clarification. We only tag anomalous flow because they are departing from the economic factors that are underlying the model. Then a second stage is needed to depth this flow and to understand the real nature of the anomalies. As you can see, there is a huge number of transactions. For operational policies, to be clear, it is impossible to inspect all transactions or go in a bank and to give me all transactions. So this is only a filter where you rank the transaction most anomalous that you can go on with a depth analysis. This is the reasons why we have estimated this model of this exercise in general. I have replied.
Yeah, so then perhaps based on the kind of subsequent analysis, it would be interesting to identify the rate of kind of false positives and false negatives, possibly, because there might be criminal or illicit financial flows that
it is necessary to
look very
inspect
normal, right?
on the site.
Yeah. Okay.
I saw a hand, Stefano.
Yeah, you can hear me? Hello.
Yes.
Hi. My name is Stefano. I work with Claudio Paselli. I just want to add some information about the model. Of course, this model is not used to measure illicit financial flows, but just to give risk indicators of regarding anomalous transactions. And about the validation of the model, we are working on a project that consists in merging this data, SARA data, the aggregates, these aggregate data that Claudio used for the model, merging with the suspicion transaction reports in order to try to give a sort of validation of the models, of the results of the model. So otherwise, we don't have any other tool to validate if the risk indicator are appropriate or not.
Just have a question for Oscar. Did you, all of this piloting that you have done in Mexico, Has this been integrated in the national system, the system of national accounts? So in a way, did they help to also better include in the whole national economy also the part that is relating to the illicit economy?
Oh, thank you, Angela, for the question. What INEGI is doing right now on the for the new future is to incorporate the illicit economy, a measurement of the illicit economy into the national accounts. But this is an ongoing work. I'm not on the on that field, on the national accounts unit. What we are doing is separate work on the illicit financial flows in order to report the SDG 16 indicator relating to illicit financial flows, and specifically on illegal markets. So illicit financial flows are just a part of the illegal economy, but it is more complex. So yes, INEGI is working on that, given a revision that INEGI had by the IMF and a recommendation to start working on a measurement of the illicit economy, of the illegal economy. So it's an ongoing work, and it's going to take at least 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. It would be great to hear anybody from the UK, from ONS. I think there has been, at least I've seen some estimates years ago done for the UK on illicit economy, particularly I think it was the drugs, and I don't know, maybe another couple of markets. But I don't know if that is as continuing, and if this is again have been embedded into the national statistical system. I'm looking. I don't know, Oliver. Do you?
I'm not sure we have anyone from the ONS on the call, unfortunately. Yeah. But I also had a follow-up question, perhaps for Oscar, because I think Oscar, you mentioned during your presentation that it was important to kind of work with international partners, which makes sense given that we're talking about illicit financial flows across borders. So I think you were saying that you were also using some information from the US. Are there any lessons learned about how to kind of reconcile different methodologies, different ways of measuring and tracking data to make sure that you're able to then work with it for your own kind of purposes?
Yes, Oliver. Well, for this example that I try to explain for smuggling of migrants, most of the data comes from a survey, a survey from Mexico in the south and on the north. So it's a survey face to face with migrants. So that is an advantage because we have that source, and even if this it has not been updated because of COVID, we believe that it will come again. So a new round possibly next year. So hopefully. But for other examples that I didn't go into that details, for example, for drugs, is more complex, and the data is mainly from the US, from sources from the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, as a whole. The reports that they have and are available publicly. So the UNODC rely more on the data from the US than from Mexico, because in Mexico there's a scarcity, at least for that topic for drugs. So the information mainly came from the reports from the US. So it's a scarcity, of data, it's a main issue here. So it's not easy to have good data and available data in general in order to use it to this type to incorporate into the models. So I think it's a big challenge to try to get data from institutions, from law enforcement institutions in Mexico regarding that sensitive topic. Did I answer your questions, Oliver?
Yes, thank you. And I think there is a related question that just appeared in the chat.
Yes, there is a question. So for you, Oscar and Claudio, and I don't know, do we have...
I think we lost Katuna, unfortunately.
Katuna, or if we have anybody of the colleagues from Zambia that want to jump in, welcome. So what kind of avenues do you consider promising in detection and prevention of illicit financial flows? What is the role of cross-border information sharing, and what kind of developments are you seeing in this field? Oscar, do you want to start? I think you mentioned, I think this, when you say we need to rely on data from the US, that really shows that illicit financial flows cannot probably be measured on a domestic level. It requires data from other countries.
Certainly, yes. The exercise didn't require to ask specifically for the information because it's of the public dominion. So our reports, public reports, so that made it easy. But of course, with this type of conversations and with your help, maybe UNODC participating and UNTAD on these efforts around the SDG 16 indicator, maybe there will be more dialogue about the need to exchange information, statistics in general, which are public, but also for specific units, intelligence financial units, that they require and they can have more this type of sharing of information. For statistical offices, well, we do not rely on this type of arrangements because we rely more on this type of discussions that are around the UN Statistical Commission. So I think it's more open in order to get that type of public data. So coordination will be important in the future if we want to advance, because this is just one example of these hard to measure phenomenons that usually statistical office are not included in their programs. So it would be nice to open these discussions in this type of forums in order to have more participation from other statistical offices.
Thank you, Oscar. Indeed, this is, I think, the illicit financial flow is the striking example of, the need for transnational information system or statistical system. As you say, hard to measure phenomena like illicit financial flows are just cross-border by definition. So this cooperation and this really is essential. So Stefano, do you want to give your feedback on this question? And by the way, thank you, Ines, for the question. If you want to jump in and comment, please, do it also on the screen if you want. Claudio?
Absolutely agree with the Mexican colleague, even if my job is not corresponding to this characteristic because it's based only mainly on domestic data. But what can I say? It's true. Greater cooperation about this topic is fundamental to fight anti-money laundering.
Thank you. Do I see other? No.
Maybe Angela, also, if you could just say a few words, I'd just be curious about what UNODC is trying from your end to promote that kind of information sharing. beyond what you have already done with the kind of framework.
What we are trying to do is, to replicate basically what also Mexico has shown to other countries. So to get this ball rolling, on getting countries to try, and every country will have a different combination of sources. Like, INEGI was mentioning the survey that they have on the north, on the south of smuggling of migrants. Very few countries are that, but they have a different way. So every country, I think, has to define the constellation that they have, that they can use to measure some of this. And that's what we are. We are working with the countries to help them to start that conversation. And overall, we supporting the countries in giving exactly that transnational picture. As Oscar was mentioning, using the data from the US, sometimes it's easier to have data in countries that receive the flows. And so to help that connecting, that also information flows across countries. And I saw that my colleague Diana has also put the website where everybody can find more information on the framework and the projects that we have to implement this framework. So, yeah. And we really hope, I think, there is so much more that we need to do in terms of statistical measurement and modeling. So I think we also require the support of the academic community, because we think that with all the caveats and all the difficulties, I think we find the way to measure the size of the economy. So, for example, in Mexico, we can, and INEGI would be relatively easier to say how much is the drug economy worth in Mexico. But the problem is, how do we now translate now that economy, where that financial flows goes? How much does it stay in Mexico? How much goes outside? How much Mexico receive from outside? That's where, and I think also with Claudio showing us some of the methodology. These are the kind of methodology that I hope we can develop more and more to try to translate and understand how we can actually map the flows. So, at least in UNODC, when you look at our research, we are quite, I hope, I would say quite accurately, we can map flows of drugs, flows of people that are trafficked, flows of migrants that are smuggled, flows of wildlife trafficking, etc. But we still we're just at the starting point to map financial flows. And so it's all that we have seen today from Mexico and Zambia, also another way of doing it, and Italy. I think these are something that I hope we can experiment more, so that maybe in 10 years, in a seminar like this, we can show actually global map where we can map that financial flows. So with this, I don't know. Yeah.
Yes, and it's a shame that we didn't get to hear the full presentation from Katuna. I will see with him whether maybe we can share at least the slides with participants after the webinar, and hopefully there'll be a way to ask questions at that point. But if there are no further questions or any other comments from the speakers, I would just like to thank everyone for joining, and in particular our speakers, Oscar, Claudio, and Angela, as well as Katuna, who is no longer on the call. Yes, please do feel free to let the RSS know if you have any other questions about the topic, and we will make this recording available on YouTube. So thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you very much, Oliver. Thank you. And thank you to everyone.